Is it possible to get all the Baldur's Gate 3 achievements in just one run? No! But we can get pretty damn close. And I only get one shot at it because once an achievement's in the pocket, it's in for life. I swear to ball. If one of you comments that you can reset your Steam achievements with open console, I will find you. I will come to your house and I will nibble on your toes while you sleep. Anyway, welcome to the channel where we spread nothing but peace, love, and crippling anxiety due to the constant dread of failure. But all can be overcome with a lot of planning, which is much more difficult when this is your first run and you have no idea what the achievement descriptions are talking about and also don't want to read the full explanations to avoid spoilers. Taking blood. Steal the blood of Latender from underneath Rosimorn Monastery? Wait, we're stealing someone's blood? Really?
You serious?
Luckily for you though, I've put together a to-the-point video guide covering all 54 achievements in Baldur's Gate 3 step by step. If you want to know more details or get some tips on how to get them yourself, the link's down below in the description. If you like watching me suffer through the process, this is the video for you. Okay, I can already hear you guys screaming, "Ew, you're not doing honor mode, you weak ass coward." Yeah, I know, but here's the issue. Honor mode does not let you save scum, and I kinda need to get all the endings in one run. Don't say it. Okay, fine, I'll say it. That's not really in a single run if you have to save scum. Yes, it is. Look, Foema was added later than the other achievements, so I think it's fair play. But save scumming should not be rewarded, of course, and like most of you, I too am now a devout follower of Loviatar, meaning that for every 3 reloads, I mean, because it's Baldur's Gate 3, whether I die, screw up an achievement, or both, I'll add an extra layer of difficulty to my upcoming honor mode run to get Foehammer. Will I regret that? Nah. Alright. Oh, here we go. I'm so excited, you guys. Hype. Oof. Right into the eye. Ew. Oh. Oh, great. It's my turn now. Yeah, no, Mr. Tentaclebeard, I'd rather not, thanks. Oh, yeah, nope, he doesn't care. Fantastic. Really fantastic. Please keep that thing away from me, please. Definitely not concerning at all that those teachers grinded into me eyeballs. After that captivating introduction, we enter straight into character creation. For our TAV for this playthrough, I had to choose the Dark Urge. Not only because the unhinged backstory feels very relatable to me, but we needed to get some of those exclusive Dark Urge achievements. Other than that, I had no clue as to what I was doing here, so I decided on a half-orc fighter with somewhat balanced stats, just because. And if I'd actually understood what I was doing, I definitely wouldn't have chosen 2-weapon fighting, considering he spends most of this run, if not all of it, swinging just one. But his looks... Oh, that was much easier to decide on. I made him extremely sexy, and yet somehow suspiciously familiar. Which is way too funny knowing at this point I had no idea that we were going to collect Infinity Stones. Anyway, we finish off character creation by naming our big guy. The name's Dork. Dork Urge. Dork wakes up on the Nautiloid with a bad case of amnesia and learned about the parasite while I learned about the mechanics of this game. Oh, what's this? A skill check? Please don't. Wait, I'm so skilled. Well, Dork is so skilled. Never mind. Forget I said anything. After that, my pea-brain encountered a pea-colored lady with whom I'd get to do my first ever turn-based fight. And it's almost indescribable how unnatural combat felt like at this point. But somehow, we made it through, and just like that, we had our first companion to share our deepest, most intelligent thoughts with. Look at this imp. He is stuck in limp park. I don't think she finds it very funny. She also did not laugh much when Dork accidentally triggered a Mind Flayer transformation sequence, nor when we released Shadowheart from her pod, though that one seemed mutual.
You keep dangerous company.
On the Nautiloid we had two objectives, get out alive and... well, actually, I had no idea what the second one was at first. So, naturally, I ran into this fight like a headless chicken, slicing up imps left and right, hoping for the best, when I finally noticed the name of the commander. Zalk. Oh shit. That's the guy from Devils in the Details, isn't he? Oh yeah, that is him. And he needs to die right here, right now on the Nautiloid. And up to this point, I hadn't been too strategic with my actions. And that didn't change much when I learned this info, because I thought I could just whack him a few times and be on my merry way. And to be fair, that almost worked, because Shadowheart was an absolute beast. Girl couldn't miss. Guys, even Sacred Flame hit with 7 damage. 7 fucking damage! Then everything changed when the Cambions attacked. Only the Mind Flayer, master of stunning these winged nightmares, could stop them. But when Dork needed him most, he... died. And so did we! Clearly, running in blind wasn't going to cut it. So I did it again. Yeah, I am definitely speedrunning that reload counter. 3rd time's the charm, and I made sure of it by doing what needed to be done. Research. I reloaded back to the beginning, and this time, Dork set his sights on collecting chicks, cerebra, and chests. The latter turning into quite the obsession for him later on. Though Shadowheart seemed to prefer the reverse.
We can get off this ship and watch each other's backs along the way.
I set up Shadowheart's spells to include Command and Bless, picked up every chest I could find, including the 2 in the first room, the one near the transformative Mind Flayer pod, and the jewelry box. And then stacked them strategically in this hallway to block the 2 extra Cambions from entering. Hopefully. The team ran in for round 3, and this time Shadowheart used her new spells to cast Command Drop Weapon on Zal. And it bloody worked first try. Now Lae'zel could snatch up this fiery sword to do some actual damage, while Zalk was left swinging sad little punches. Which meant all we had to do now was get his HP to 0. And by we, I mean Mr. Tentacle Face. Because Shadowheart didn't land a single crit this time. Or a hit, really. Just a series of sacred misses. And the commander still packed a significant punch because the Mind Flayer was down to 13 hit points and Zalk nowhere near dying yet. Does it even work when you throw a healing potion? Oh, that's better than expected. As for the 2 extra Cambions, they must have shared Dork's infatuation with chests as they kept banging on them every single round. Nice. And finally, after 10 rounds of combat, Zalk lost his final HP to us. Yes! Now that's what we call brain power. And with that, we have our first trophy in the bag. And not so long after, we connected the transponder, escaped the Nautiloid, and snagged Descent from Avernus as well. 2 down, 51 to go. Somehow, Dork survived the crash while my laptop barely did. At least his hair still looks good. It's probably the fans blowing so fucking hard. Jesus Christ. While Dork came to his senses, we found out that he's still suffering from a really bad case of amnesia, but also has an unexplainable fondness for corpses. By rummaging around the crash site, we found our first readable item, a book. 1 out of 100 for the bookworm achievement. Then, after some aimless wandering and me failing to understand that Dork's sleight of hand skill is not suitable for this door, I noticed the level up icon. Level 2. We get some extra hit points, we get an action surge, but most noteworthy, we get a new headshot. Well, I don't think headshot's the right word. What in the hairy chests is that? Good lord. With our new questionable profile pic secured, we took on the next fight with relative ease. And afterwards stumbled across a dying mind flayer.
Forcing you to love it.
Girl, please. Like, I know this chest is irresistible, but no tentacles will be touching this godly body. Okay?
Are you sure about that?
And just like that, we got our first inspiration for the roleplayer achievement by putting it out of its sorry existence. But who cares? 'Cause chest. I mean, look at it and imagine the amount of companions you can attract with such a thing. Not so unexpectedly, Larian was the first to fall for this rack on display and joined our team. Shortly after, Dork also attempted to kill a boar to show off to his new mate, but instead of looking heroic, he looked like a deranged lunatic. After that fiasco, we picked up 3 more readables for the bookworm achievement and stumbled across an unstable rune, holding none other than Gale of Waterdeep hostage.
A hand? Anyone?
Naturally, we pulled him out because he is important for the Repairing the Weave achievement, and Dork likes chests more than chopped limbs. I say this as if I knew that that was the right choice to make and wasn't just thanking bloody Merlin himself that I somehow picked the correct option, but hey, we did it, and it scored us another background goal too. Then we ran into a familiar, friendly face, Lae'zel, but the 2 people holding her hostage, tieflings. And that meant that they couldn't die if we wanted to keep Leave No One Behind on the table. So I chose the non-hostile options and thankfully they walked away unscathed. Exploring further, we found a shovel next to a dig site, which led to our very first, non-hairy mind you, chest for Dig for Victory. And soon after, we got pulled into our first big battle at the gates of the Emerald Grove. Willing to bet his last name was Fodder. And speaking of willings, Will made his grand entree and the fight kicked off. And let me tell you, I was so glad to have Lae'zel back because damn, that girl can shove.
That's what she said.
Bringing forth shove off, as the yeeted goblin did not survive the impact. But our crew did, and we entered the grove. Inside the grove, we're immediately greeted by Zevlor, who explains the whole refugee thing, and on top of that, the local druids, Gaga, aren't exactly rolling out the welcome mat and kicking the tieflings out to proceed with their ritual. We had to stop it, but not before getting distracted by every single thing there was to do in this grove, like speaking to Roland, Leah, and Cal, who are debating whether they should sneak out. And somehow, through a mix of dumb luck and decent dice rolls, Dork convinced them to stay. Man, the number of times I could have completely screwed up this run really makes you believe that the Larian overlords love me. Or not. Because after a round of recruitments, picking up Will, reuniting with Shadowheart, and after speaking to Gwax, who turned out to be a prime target for some mind reading, earning us no penny required and yet another inspiration for Lae'zel, it all went downhill. And the Larian overlords wasted no time proving that, because the moment I tried to pick up a book, that was not appreciated. Neither were my persuasive skills, and before I knew it, I was thrown into prison. 2 hours into the playthrough. Oops! On the bright side, that did give me a chance to score as Scapologist. So with a quick breakout through the back of the prison and the achievement popping up, we were back on track. In that same area, we found a goblin held captive by 2 tieflings. Saza.
Shoot before you lose your nerve, tiefling.
That sounds familiar. She cannot be caged. Rescue Saza. Saza! See, I knew I remembered her name from one of these. And we needed to get her out for the first step of She Cannot Be Caged. But Arca, one of the tieflings, was very eager to assassinate her, which meant that Dork had to convince her otherwise.
Move!
Persuasion did not work too well for us last time. I don't really want to intimidate her either. Perhaps we should try detecting her thoughts.
Get out of my head!
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Now, killing them was not an option because any tiefling deaths would ruin the Leave No One Behind achievement, so we could only do one thing. When we loaded back in, something was missing.
Nani?
Okay, so first we see too much chest, and now no one has one. Perfectly balanced game. Post reload. No, make that preload. I redid the recruitment of Shadowheart and Will, as they are important for their related achievements, to Bloom in Darkest Night and Loophole. I convinced Roland to stay in the Grove again, spoke to Gwex, and did some more reading without getting thrown into prison. I also think this chestless moment cured Dork's obsession because his image returned to normal after leveling up again. Chest in peace. Rather than testing out Arca's patience again, I took a different pathing and stumbled across Nadira about to be KO'd by a bugbear. Another day, another tiefling saved. So no tiefling deaths yet. Well, not on our watch at least. From there, we walked down past another chest to dig up and then gathered the courage to face Arca. And when we finally convinced her to put the arrow down, we were free to escort Saza out of here. Except Gil needed to get something off his chest first.
Why don't we take a little break? Allow ourselves a few moments of rest?
Now,
Gives me a
really.
chance to talk to you about
You know, we're
something
kind of in the middle of something, Gil.
rather important.
Read the bloody room. Gil explained his concerning dietary needs, and without batting an eye, we moved on. You, Gil. Astarion worked his rogue magic, picking the lock without a hitch, and with Saza on our team, we slipped into the underground passage. Oh, we've been here before.
Flashback.
Okay, everybody, nice and quiet.
End of flashback.
Ah yes, the good old days. Now where were we? Right, with the path cleared, we ran straight through. Once outside, Saza promised to keep her promise and ran off to the goblin camp, and that's 1 out of 3 for She Cannot Be Caged. Next, we ran into a super friendly welcoming committee near a crypt, and an even friendlier group inside the crypt. But the fights were worth it as the refectory turned out to be book heaven. Books here, books there, books everywhere. And I really thought collecting 100 readable items would be difficult. Among the many pages of lore was a chained up book that not only fed our bookworm grind, but also earned Gale a spark of inspiration. In that same area, we ran into another fight, this time with some scribes who were very committed to keeping their post-mortem employment. After putting them to rest, again, we freed a skeleton from his tomb, Withers. Dork stood before him, clearly intrigued, as it gained him another moment of inspiration. But was it really the familiar aura? or just a shared appreciation for exposed chests. We may never know. On our way out, a survival check revealed yet another buried chest, and at this point I'm starting to think that for every character chest Dork gazes upon, the universe rewards him with a buried one. Cute. Now back at the Grove, we finally descended into the heart of the Druid Enclave, where, unsurprisingly, more trouble was brewing. This time it was a young tiefling, Arabella, who stole the idol of Sylvanas from the Druids and was one hiss away from becoming snake food.
The death of a child. A timeless tragedy that never grows old.
You know what? Snakes can regurgitate their food if they're stressed, so perhaps we can watch her get eaten and she can live after being thrown up again. Best of both worlds.
What? What the f?
I'm not too sure why I was thinking about that as an option, but a successful detect odds this time. Let us peer into Kaga's mind and talk her down. Arabella was spared. Kaga, on the other hand, made it very clear she had no intention of stopping her stupid ritual anytime soon, or sparing the tieflings in the process, so we'd have to figure out a way to save the rest of them. A quick tour of the Enclave led to another inspiration for Gil from some ancient plaque reading, and there were many books and texts to read, plus an antidote recipe that would come in handy later for the Homebrewer achievement. Then it was time to meet Nettie, the oh-so-great healer, hoping she'd have some insight into that little problem behind our eyeballs. Oh, and she could heal us. Really, all we had to do was follow her into a secret room where nobody could watch. And right around then, OBS decided to pull a Gale. But instead of demanding magical artifacts, it demanded more computing power. Yeah, the encoding overloaded. And I didn't even realize this was happening while playing the game, so enjoy the 1 frame per hour stop motion cinematic masterpiece for the next pod. Sorry. Nettie could not heal us, but was very much ready to use murder as medicine. After convincing her such measures would not be necessary, she spoke about Halsin, the missing archdruid, who might be able to help us if we could actually find and free him. Man, it's always please rescue them. Never do you need any rescuing. Poor little dorky porgy, always so fragile. Please save him, somebody, please. Yeah, look, I'm starting to think my brain's encoding also overloaded around this time. But we devoured the knowledge from the Enclave's library and took a look inside the servants' quarters, where Astarion engaged in some light burglary as we found an interesting label peeking through the wall. Kaga's secret chest. And it was very much worth stealing because we received a book about the Shadow Druids, giving Gil another inspo, and a cryptic note. Swamp Dog's tree. Okay, I'm guessing we should take a look there, wherever it may be. But I intended to explore the entire grove before wandering outside again doing side quests, and that's how we stumbled upon the stars tonight. Alfira, a bard singing her heart out while the squad looked like her squirrel friends held them at gunpoint during the serenade. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Too sweet. Odiously sweet.
See? He really hated that.
The within despairs at your kindness.
Dork is not a theater kid, confirmed. Instead, he shifted his attention to his usual fixation. Chests. We jumped over some pillars and found another dig site. The 5th one, to be exact, which earned us dig for victory. But that victory was short-lived. Enter Murkon. Yet another tiefling kid in mortal danger. And yet another chance to completely botch my leave no one behind run. Harpies were luring him in with their song, and I, naively, just charged in. After all, we just endured Alfira singing. How much worse could this be? Yeah, it went about as well as you'd expect. Gil got nuked on turn 1, and his necrotic aura was not doing us any favors. Or Murkon, poor kid. Then everybody skipped their turns. Astarion and Lae'zel fell shortly after, and Dork ate dirt. Game over. Okay, now let's try that again, but with a more tactical approach this time. Dork initiated combat while the rest of the party remained hidden. Or so I thought. Turns out, they were a little too close to the fight, so before I could even decide on my first move, Lae'zel and Gale were already fully hypnotized again. So much for our tactical advantage. Gale's wisdom was not doing him many favors either, with fighting against the enchantment, which caused a near-fatal opportunity attack. But with a lot of healing and some luck, we managed to save the child and ourselves. After the battle, we looted the Harpy's Nest, where we found a few unique notes to add to our growing collection of readables, and on our way back out of the grove, we ran into Arabella and her parents, now happily reunited. On the road outside the grove, we ran into a dying true soul whose companions mentioned an oil bear. My ears perked up because an owlbear cub is tied to one of the achievements. And if there was a way to find it through these idiots, I wasn't about to let that slip away. So I encouraged them to go after it while casually following behind. But diving headfirst into an owlbear's den without a long rest, not exactly the best survival strategy, so we returned to camp where Withers had now officially joined our little dysfunctional family, and all seemed so peaceful.
I'm so glad I found... Wait, it's me! It's Althera from the Grove.
Well, shit. Yep. I had wandered close enough to the Blighted Village by running to the owlbear cave and triggered the Althera scene. And to think I was warned about this exact event. Scheisse. I sprinted back to the grove to deal with this very inconvenient Dark Urge Tiefling situation. The plan? Gang up on her so we can knock her out with a non-lethal attack. And while she wasn't too happy about the whole ordeal, we did it. Though the vines ensnaring her had other ideas about non-lethal damage. And suddenly, there was a lot of blood. Please work this time. And it did. We knocked her out safely, no blood, no murder scene, just a bard passed out in the hot summer sun, or something. Before anyone gets suspicious and asks questions, we fled the scene using the fast travel waypoint. We then ran back to the owlbear cave and then went to camp for a long rest, where Withers announced his arrival again. Dork also had a chat with Shadowheart, who seemed eager to test if there was a spine somewhere in his broad purple chest. His stubbornness actually impressed her, netting us a decent approval boost, which would be handy later.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Then came the moment of truth. The night settled, the sleeping mats unrolled, and... yes! A different bard visited our camp. Though Dork looked somewhat unimpressed by this wary traveler. I mean, come on, exposed legs, covered chest, yeah, definitely not his type.
Stop it. Get some help.
But hey, we did get our first long rest out of 4 full bedrolls and breakfast. Yeah, breakfast. Dork sure was starving. Ate out her chest like a madman, though our camp seemed quite okay with the cannibalism. I wonder why. Back in the forest, we came across a sweet little doggo standing guard over his fallen owner.
I won't leave him.
Oh, is anyone else getting Hachi vibes? That movie always makes me cry. We gave Scratcher scent so that he could follow us to camp. A good choice, as not only is he one of the cutest companions, but he's also essential for not 1, but 2 achievements. But even if he wasn't, let's be real, I would never leave him behind. And the same goes for the other cutest companion ever, Karlach. The moment Dork laid eyes on her, it was over. Love at first sight. I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, they shared the same hair color unintentionally. Like, that's fate. Because Karlach is the only companion tied to a romance achievement, meaning Dork just met his future girlfriend. He didn't realize yet, but he was about to gain access to a chest hotter than hell.
I'd hug you if it wouldn't scorch your skin off.
With Karlach officially recruited, the next step was obvious. Make her happy. And what better way to do that than to completely obliterate the so-called Paladins of Tyr that had been hunting her. Outmatched? Where the fuck is everybody? Apparently, 3/4 of our crew was just chilling outside. But we used the advantage to sneak up on them, and rather than being outmatched, we were slicing one, slicing two, and slicing three. We revived the Larian while Karlach went on a full rampage, and afterwards she told us about her infernal engine for a heart, which obviously we now had to fix. We continued the path down the Risen Road, and sure enough, we ran into the pack of gnolls and hyenas that Scratch had warned us about. We slaughtered the first group, and by the time we cut down the second, Karlach received her first inspiration. From there, we continued the path even further down and made it to the mountain pass, where a lone tiefling was watching the Githyanki patrol from a safe distance. Now, I was really worried that we'd have to protect her and keep her alive here, I mean tiefling and all, but no! She couldn't have cared less about any offers of safety and camaraderie and ran off. Lae'zel, who was so enjoying everything this
Fey run
had to offer, was much happier to see her kin. After all, it's a chance to be led to a crash for purification, so without hesitation she abandoned us and ran straight to Voss.
lead me to.
Shh.
Voss, however, was only interested in one thing, the little artifact in our pockets. And obviously, we weren't just handing that over. So, we tried to persuade Lae'zel to lie about it. And while for once Dork's persuasion skills peaked, Lae'zel, well, her nose didn't grow any bigger, but wow, did she fail spectacularly, leading to a massacre of us. And so we try again. Lae'zel, you honest little stinker. Really, it wasn't pretty. We got slaughtered in less than 2 minutes. So, again.
The Kithrak nods.
Finally, our deception paid off. Not only because Voss actually left us alive for once, we got the roleplayer achievement as he flew off on his dragon. All because Astarion was thrilled by the trickery, earning himself another inspiration and bringing our total up to 10. On our way back from the mountain pass and the Risen Road, we passed by the Oil Bear Cave. Ready to go, I strode up to the Owlbear mother, fully prepared for an attack. We still had Speak with Animals active, so we were met with verbal hostility. I figured Dork should match her energy. Yeah, she did not appreciate that. But was also not about to fight in front of her cub, and so we got off scratch-free. And I wasn't about to throw hands with her anyway, not after spotting the cub at her side. That little guy was coming home with us one way or another. I just hadn't figured out how yet. So we backed off. After some more exploring, smashing, and other types of smashing, Dork returned to camp to find Gale acting like he was close to dying, only to immediately start talking normally in zero pain whatsoever. What a faker. We did give him an artifact that he then swallowed whole, and while everyone was super chill about Dork's innate hunger, they surely had different opinions about Gale's appetite.
Gale slurped that thing up like a horse with a carrot.
I like Gale, but I'm keeping all my good gear well out of sight.
So, Gale just consumes magical items like I do wine.
We listen and we don't judge. For our second long rest, I expected a nice, relaxed night, but Karlach and Will had other plans.
The stink of Avernus!
He insulted Bay so badly that I was about to kick his ass out of camp, but sadly I couldn't afford to pick a side here, since Will is an achievement carrying companion. Bummer. Also, I love how everyone approved when Dork defended Karlach, including Will himself, but not Gale, who stood in the back of the conversation listening in, not giving a single word dung. Lol. The next morning though, Scratch decided to join our camp, which Gale did care about. Is this a red flag or a green flag? What do you guys think? After returning from camp, we ventured deeper into the forest area and jumped over a wall to get to the windmill. With the gnome strapped to it? A group of goblins stood around, laughing at the poor guy's predicament. But the moment we ran into the field, they turned hostile, and it wasn't an easy fight. One of the little bastards cast grease, and man, it was a slippery mess. Dork even perished, but the rest of the team was able to wipe out the rest of the goblins. One of them, Fezark, surrendered, and Lae'zel, being Lae'zel, immediately demanded all of his belongings. And for a split second, his inventory popped up, and then he bolted. That sneaky little bastard was going to escape with his life and his loot. Nah! This injustice could not stand. I triggered turn-based mode to catch him, but somehow, when Karlach hit him, it triggered a cutscene where Fezark started mocking the gnome on the windmill, and the moment it ended, he ran off again. Oh, that sealed it. Every single goblin in the area had to perish. They turn hostile immediately. So do we. And no, we did not forget to loot, and free Barker's root. We grabbed the key from the crate inside the house, which opened the set of shabby wooden doors, and behind them, infernal iron. We'd been told by Damon, the tiefling smith at the Grove, that we would need to get some to help fix Karlach's heart. And there it was, sitting in a chest, so we picked that up, and after clearing out all the remaining goblins, it was time for a nap. This rest was anything but peaceful. We got introduced to Will's patron, Mizora, a crucial player in Will's loophole achievement. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and remain focused on the here and now. Let's just say Dork had to work really hard to keep his eyes above chest level. Meanwhile, Mizora wasted no time giving Will a horny makeover. All because he dared to defy her and let Karlach live. Will's dilemma got a lot of attention that night. Rightfully so. But someone decided that it should not just be about Will and made it about herself.
Something's wrong.
Shadowheart pulled Dork aside and, after passing a persuasion check, dropped a major reveal.
I worship Shah, the mistress of the night.
Who? We checked in on her the next morning to talk a bit more about it now that we slept on it. Dork reassured her that her fate didn't bother him. I mean, is he really one to judge? He literally just got a visit from a blood-obsessed butler, his butler, who showed up in the middle of the night. Apparently Shadowheart appreciated the support because in that moment she opened up just a little more. Not about Shar or the parasite. Instead, she shared something far more personal. Her love for night orchids. And now, back to our regularly scheduled murder spree in the Blighted Village. Some enlightened trolls crossed our path and any friend of a goblin is an enemy of mine, so we killed them. And with such big brain energy, we headed straight into the apothecary's cellar. There were, of course, more books to read, even another recipe, but the highlight was discovering a hidden lever. It opened up a secret room filled with loot, including a certain scroll. I grabbed it, not realizing at the time that this was the scroll for this achievement. God, can you imagine getting all the way to Act 3 and then realizing I'd missed it? Thankfully not. We did almost die to the skeleton army when we opened up the other coffins, and afterwards had a chat with the talking mirror, which granted us access into another hidden room. Inside, more books, more notes, and a very ominous looking tome. Though I'm not sure if you can tell, as once again, allegedly, encoding overloaded.
You're joking. Not another one?
And I still did not know this was going on or happening while recording. I mean, I should have expected my potato of a laptop to have issues, but I really thought it could handle it.
You're a workhorse. You're silent.
We couldn't actually read the tome. That was a first. Do you know what wasn't a first? Nearly getting our heads blown off. This time at Joaquin's rest.
12 seconds later.
From there, we stumbled into the Santorim's basement hideout and got wrapped up in their business. Apparently, they had a missing package that needed recovering, but none of this is tied to any achievements and I did not die during any of it, so I won't be dragging this video out any longer and bore you with that footage. With the infernal iron in hand, we headed back to the grove to meet with Damon and help fix Karlach. Right after Gale had another snack break. Dirk gave him a set of gloves in order to make him feel better, but alas, the snack wasn't doing much for him this time. So let's get back to someone that we can help. We gave Damon the infernal iron and he got to work, crafting a part for Karlach's infernal engine. It gave her an energy boost, sure, but it didn't exactly solve her hotness. Though let's be real, I don't think anything can. I do think that the warped headband of intellect started to work its magic through the screen, because for the very first time I checked the full map and quest logs to see what we should do next. We are 10 hours in at this point. Yeah, very helpful. Probably should have done that sooner. Before continuing though, it was once again time for a long rest, although poor Dork still did not catch much sleep. But he did catch a Starian sneaking up on him, fangs out ready to suck on his neck.
Shit.
Still, we let him have just a nibble, and with that we also hit our 4th long rest, unlocking bedrolls and breakfast too. With the recent discovery of the quest log and map, I realized that Kaga's notes had pointed us to an area south of the blighted village. So we set off to investigate. Down the road there was a heated conversation going on. Auntie Ethel, the sweet old woman from the grove, was being harassed. Thinking I was doing the right thing, Dork told them to lower their weapons, not realizing that meant we'd have to kill them. Oh, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate for them. As for us, their corpses proved very useful, as the note from Irina tipped us over the 100 unique readable items securing bookworm. Then we walked into the beautiful sunlit swamp? Swamp Dog's tree. I remember. Though it did take me an embarrassing amount of time to notice where I was supposed to go and that I could jump over the rocks to reach the area of the marker. But we reached the decrepit sanctuary and it led to an unexpected, but very fun fight. Mud oozing in every crevice of our bodies, we walked to the large tree stump and found the note that exposes Kaga's plot with the Shadow Druids. Armed with this information, we marched back to the grove and confronted her.
What?
While she didn't seem to stray from her initial stance on the matter, a quick reciting of their frescoes had her come to her senses. And together with the other druids, we fought the Shadow Druids. During this fight, I finally figured out that I was throwing enemies left and right, hoping to get killed 2 birds with 1 gnome, but there is an actual button called Improvised Melee Weapon, and that is the one you have to use. Karlach had the honor of yeeting Olodun onto a bear with the improvised melee weapon attack, unlocking the achievement at last. With the Shadow Druids handled, I brought the retrieved Santorim package back to the secret hideout, and there we found a hidden lift in the back of the area. A little bit of lockpicking later, and we were standing in the Underdark. After taking out some minotaurs and surviving the mental threats of the upper shroom, we ventured into the Ebon Lake Grotto. While nothing in this area is directly tied to any of the achievements, there were some truly fascinating moments worth sharing. For starters, we met Blurg, an interesting fellow who introduced us to a rather suspicious-looking ally, Omelum, who turned out to be pretty cool. Blurg himself carried an item that would prove invaluable much later, the Psychic Spark amulet that we bought from him. Then we spoke to the Myconid Sovereign, who explained their little Dwegar problem and how they needed an ass-whooping down at the beach. Tala backed up the story and gave us a pair of boots for the ass-kicking, and just as we were leaving, Sovereign Gludd begged to join the war effort for some sweet, sweet revenge. Thus, with our Avengers assembled, we marched forward and passed by a field with Balin, Noblestalk, and Bang. I thought long and hard about how to do it and made a full plan, a good plan. Okay, let's throw Bibber Bay his backpack. And throw the fire out of the way. Okay, he's safe, that's good. Now just grab the Noblestalk. Huh? What? Why would a mage hand use the Noblestalk? That makes no sense. The Noblestalk was gone. The mage hand disappeared. And I refuse to waste a reload on it as it's not part of any achievement. Tragic. But time moves on, and so do we. Which is a good quote for what happened next. We cleared the rest of the fights in the area and finally made our way to the Dwegar-infested beach. All the while, OBS was hosting a funeral for my recordings again. My entire recording was once more nothing but a PowerPoint slideshow of my suffering. And did I notice this error? No! Not until the end of the Dwegar fight. And at this point you might think, oh surely you'll now adjust your settings. Not really, because in my worldview, this was the first time it happened. The first time that I had actually seen the error message. So I did what anyone would do, stop the recording and hope that fixes things. And that was the moment my laptop decided to crash. Just like that, half of the footage were images, half of the footage was gone forever. Luckily, I can prove to you that the fight actually happened through these two beautiful shots. The only two of this fight. Thankfully, my laptop turned on again and we proceeded. So, after encountering a spectator? That is so dope. And walking into a Selûnite outpost, returning to inform the Sovereign that the Dwegar rod had been cleansed, and letting Omelum brew his special potion for us that did not cure the parasite problem, we discovered a cool portal that took us back to Putrid Bog, leading to Auntie Ethel's house. Inside, we found Mayrina looking absolutely miserable. But since she willingly came here, Dork did not care. Instead, he focused on what really mattered, his parasite. But he wasn't going to offer up one of his peepers, so we pressed on. Or so I tried. My screen froze. IRL this time. And suddenly, Auntie Ethel turned hostile. Wait, why is there battle music?
Enjoy playing with your new friends.
Hello?
Bye-bye.
I can't even do anything. Will you please stop fighting? Then everything was okay again on my end and Ethel was gone, but the recording sure wasn't. And guess who realized that way too late? Again. Yeah, I changed my settings after this and it never happened again. Woo! Anyway, we slayed the hag, saved Mayrina, and gave her back her charming husband. Guys, hear me out. Connor's looking good though. For a dead guy. After that chaos, we long rested, and in the early morning that followed, Scratch had an exclamation mark above his head. He brought Dork his ball, and they played fetch together by throwing it from the inventory, and then Scratch, being the adorable little pup that he is, brought it back to us, unlocking Fetch Quest. Yippee! Feeling accomplished, we returned to the Riverside Tea House waypoint, which launched us straight into a fight with some hostile redcaps. Astarion missed a range attack to finish the redcap Blood Sage off, so then Dork stepped in on his turn to do it, and afterwards pointed his arrow at the other fella, and somehow I received Action Surge. That's odd. I checked the footage, and you guys saw it too, right? Dork made 2 attacks only. He never even used his own Action Surge, and Astarion just before him did only 1 attack, and that's a different character. So I'm 100% convinced that mine bugged out, but we got it. After this, we returned to the blacksmith's basement in the Blighted Village, as Dork had a piece of scissor bark from his time in the Underdark, and we used it to craft the scissor dagger. A delightful little thing. Smashing through the walls in this area surprisingly led us to a whole new area filled with spider webs. Finally! Because I had been looking for the spiders since pest control was still on my Act 1 to-do list, and at this point I thought I'd explored everything in Act 1, except for the goblin camp, which is such a naive thing to think with this game. But turns out she was hiding right below us the whole time that we slaughtered the goblins, and now it was time to come for her. By now, I had learned that walking into a fight without a plan was a great way to make my upcoming honor mode run an absolute nightmare. So I approached the area with caution, sneaking around everywhere, equipping Astarion with the spider step boots that we looted from a chest, and leaving 1 person behind before initiating combat. And then I proceeded to waste all that strategy on the wrong fight. I saw some cocoons and immediately assumed that they were the hatchlings, so I slaughtered the spiders before they could do anything with them. Oh yeah, we exterminate. Exterminate. Meaning that after the fight, I was really confused as to why the achievement was not popping up. Plot twist, there were more spiders. Oh my god, you guys. It even says spider egg. Honestly, this game is so humbling sometimes. Astarion eliminated the eggs with a ranged attack and got out smoothly. But of course that wasn't the only batch, and the next ones were right under the Spider Queen's nose. Wait, do spiders have noses? Oh, Trichobotria. And the next ones were right under the Spider Queen's Trichobotria. But I had a strategy. Move forward, shoot egg, hide again, move back. Move forward, shoot egg, hide again, move back. Move forward, shoot egg, hide again, move back. Move forward, shoot egg. Shit. Don't get your kids, Mama. Don't. Was my strategy flawed? Nah. Move forward, shoot egg, hide again, move back. Move forward, shoot egg, hide again, move back. And this time, it actually worked. I cleared out every single egg, the ones near her and the ones on the ground level below her. No more eggs means no more hatchlings, means I know I gotta do it. I know I gotta do it. Gotta trigger combat and begin a war. Exterminate, exterminate. Hit until she falls and drops on the floor. Exterminate, exterminate. Matriarch hits Garlac, don't worry. Lazel attacks. Now she dead and I got what I asked for. Exterminate, exterminate.
Started making it, had a breakdown. Bon appetit.
Moving on, we clean up the remaining spiders, loot the place, and get the hell out. With nearly all of the Act 1 activities wrapped up, it was time to storm the goblin camp. the looming threat it posed to the grove being very clear from our previous interactions. So we knew what had to be done. Eliminate the 3 goblin leaders to cut off the Absolute's influence and, more importantly, save the tieflings. Sessa was waiting at the entrance to help us get inside, but Dork had other priorities, like playing with Gale's magic flute. With a highly successful performance role, he played a sweet melody, and I wasn't the only one impressed by his skills.
Handsome and talented. Goodness me, I'm a goner.
But the love eyes had to make way for another ground-shaking realization. As when we walked in, we found out that authority can also be used against us. Oh, and there are 3 chosen, and they're looking for the prism. Yet all of that paled in comparison to seeing the owlbear cup in the goblin camp. Dork chugged down a speak to animal potions, just in case, which turned out to be great for the chicken chase that followed. We told the little cup that he'd be safe if he ran through the posts, and so we had to make sure he actually was after he so cutely did that for us. Corolla outright refused to pay out our winnings, so Dork used his authority to get his money back. And we then started a conversation with the cub, hoping to convince him to come to camp with us, like we need him to, for the achievement. But the poor guy was too scared to leave. I wasn't 100% sure what to do, but accidentally talked to Corolla again at one point, and I could actually demand to take the cub. Thank you, authority. And with that, the little owlbear was free. Whether or not he'll join us at camp remains to be seen. From there, we continued onwards and entered the Shattered Sanctum, where Sessa, once again, helped us inside. In the first hall, we met True Soul Gut, who gave us a nice flesh marking of our totally favorite god, and then she invited us to her chambers to help. Nice and separated. We headed toward Priestess Gut's chambers, and she was unsettling. The way she tried to dismiss my companion set off every alarm bell in my head, so Dork played along for a while, but then I had Astarion sneak into position mid-conversation so that he could plunge a dagger into her back. And before she could even react, Dork finished the job. With the priestess down, we took a quick detour into her locked chambers, only to find a mysterious puzzle. Solving it led us once again into the Underdark, but this time at the Saloonite outpost we had already visited. Back to the Goblin camp we go, where I saw yet another route around the camp that led us to a group of snoring drunk goblins sprawled out on the floor. The drunk tag triggered the memory of the Punch Drunk achievement, defeat 20 enemies while shit-faced yourself. Inconveniently, a barrel filled with booze was right beside them. So I had the crew down a bottle each and attack. The drunk state did not last long, but we got 2 of them before it ran out. I know I could have spent another turn to down another bottle, but I thought plenty of opportunities to do this again. That top area then led to a wall, which brought us back into the Shattered Sanctum, this time taking the upper walkways. It gave us the perfect vantage point over the other 2 goblin leaders and made it easier to come up with a plan to end them. That's when I remembered the trail of goblin bodies left behind in the blighted village. Look, I wasn't about to let these goblins think they were special somehow. Plus, I still wasn't convinced we were leveled high enough for what was coming, so I figured, why not fix this discrepancy with murder? Slay, queen, slay. Careful, slaying, that is. I couldn't risk these goblins to start dropping a beat on the war drums, so we took out most of the goblins and the drums, even the one in Drawer Raxlin's chamber, which, funnily enough, caused no reaction really. And so we kept the murderous festivities going. Satisfied with our growing pile of bodies now decorating the inner sanctum, I figured we had earned a long rest. But Gale, once again, had other plans. First, he sulked about being ignored and demanded yet another artifact, but the offering didn't seem to liven him up quite yet. Thus, he finally informed us about his real name. Gale Urbanheimer of Waterdeep. It's in his chest? What? Look, I knew Gale carried an orb from the achievement connected to it, but nowhere did it specify its location. He could have just as well carried it in a pocket or something. And that was not even the biggest surprise that night. Dog was feeling unwell. And Lae'zel, practical as ever, was ready to put him down on the spot. After convincing her that it was just a minor illness, she let it go. But then, he came. Well, no, that's not what I mean, he came as in coming. That's not helping. He cometh. Okay, he cometh. No, you know what? Never mind. Our guardian stepped in for the first time and presented himself. The sheer presence of Thanark brought Dork to his knees. He graced us with wisdom about our worm problem. Worm problem. Why did I write it like this? I can do this. He graced us with wisdom about our worm problem. Returning to reality, it's time to visit a new area. The walk pens, where goblin kids were tormenting a bear locked in a cage. Why do they have a bear imprisoned?
I don't know. He changed into a bear.
OBS's encoding may not be overloaded anymore, but my brain still is. Not standing for bear torture, the crew took out their weapons and chopped up all the goblins in this room, including the kids. I mean, the Dark Urge has to come out at one point or another, right? Also, Shadowheart missed her firebolt, and Thanark just goes,
"That won't work."
Like the f it will, if she'd only stop missing all the time. Duh. After the fight, it is revealed that the bear is indeed Halsin.
A true friend of nature. Or perhaps a lunatic.
How about both? Halsin couldn't help with the parasite, but did offer us a lead, Moonrise Towers. He promised to guide us there after we took care of the goblin leaders. But not wanting Halsin to interfere with our favorite hobby, we left him behind and turned our attention to Minthara, who was going to present us with a special problem. I'd been informed that achieving both She Cannot Be Caged and Leave No One Behind is nearly impossible, and that is because Sazza will tell Minthara where the grove is, meaning that she's going to press on with her attack plan, which is bad news because it's highly likely that a tiefling dies in that scenario. But going against Minthara here to prevent that means that she will aggro and so will Sazza. And even if you use non-lethal damage to knock Sazza unconscious, she won't show up at Moonrise like Minthara does if you use that method. But I had an idea. First, I removed the all-seeing scrying eye and Scrut from the room, testing a strategy that I had just seen that day of that famous clip where Gortash is yeeted off the edge with an improvised melee weapon action. And it actually worked pretty well. Ish. You know, you have to press escape at the right moment so that you can carry them, but you don't end up throwing them, as that obviously causes conflict. But the idea is not bad. My execution? Yeah, so I destroyed the wardroom, started the dialogue, saved Sazza, even though she did not deserve it, and promised Minthara we'd help her in the fight to come. I then enabled turn-based mode, and I do not know what went through my mind at this point, but I must have forgotten Sazza, as I just loot some stuff and then hack into the other goblin, causing everyone to be pulled into the fight, including Sazza. Second try went much smoother. Astarion stayed out of view this time, ready to step in if something went wrong, and then after the conversation, I used turn-based mode to carefully carry Sazza out of harm's way. And once Sazza was in the clear, Dork turned back to get to Minthara, who had wandered a little further than I liked, and shoving does not work due to her gear, so thankfully, Astarion sneaked up and knocked her out cleanly. Hehe. With Minthara now unconscious, we looted her gear and left her to nap among the corpses. And Sazza? She was now chilling in the main hall, surrounded by goblin bodies, though she didn't seem to mind much. Nice. Drawer Raxlin was next, so while crouching around, hidden on top of the wooden beams, we took him out swiftly, ending his life before he could ever get a turn. And that calls himself a true soul? Pathetic. The rest of the fight was a bit more challenging for some of us. But we did what we had to do, and Halsin was delighted to hear that it was finally done. Thinking the worst was over now, I swapped companions and returned to the goblin camp waypoint, because there were a few more goblins who needed to go. Which was a lack of judgment on my part, because combat initiated immediately. Thankfully, I still had a few smoke powder barrels in my inventory, and with some barrelmancy, that didn't do nearly as much as I'd hoped. Oh well, we saw it through to the end and looted everything inside because I did not want to return here, worrying that it might end up messing with Saza. On the way out, there was one pesky bugger still standing on the bridge. Crusher, the guy whose toes we nibbled for a ring. I think Karlak felt ashamed about the toe incident, so she unequipped her weapons and gave him a friendly reminder to never embarrass her crush ever again, earning us Fists of Fury. The other goblins at the entrance also instantly aggroed when we walked past, so that gave us a great excuse to continue the slaughter party before eventually heading back to the grove, where Zevlor thanked us for clearing the road ahead and decided it was cause for celebration. So did Dork, who whipped out yet another flute and started performing. I mean, seeing so many people gathered around seemed like the perfect opportunity to start working on the busker achievement. Turns out his flute playing skills have rather diminished to a more memeable state. Let's just say the crowd was moved, crying tears of pain. But no gold, sadly. Yeah, let's not do that again in the foreseeable future. Well, hopefully the party will be more eventful. Oh, and eventful it was. Back at camp, we joined the tieflings for their celebration. And I think love was in the air because one slightly kind dialogue option would lead to some spicy outcomes. Everywhere Dork turned, people were looking at him with hot eyes. But Dork's heart had already been claimed, and his eyes, well, they were fixed on one person only. Karlak. He noticed the careful tone in her voice when they talked, a choice of words that he could not let slip.
And our friendship?
He wasn't about to be friend-zoned without telling her how he really felt. And when he did, well, let's just say, best decision of his life. And he was not alone in his excitement.
Yes!
Alfira also made an appearance at the parties, singing her heart out. And while Zevlor might have enjoyed the peace and quiet of her corpse a tad more, I was happy to know that she survived our little pat on the head. Shadowheart was kind enough to hand Dork some liquid courage for the night ahead with Karlak, a much needed boost because, oh boy, Karlak was not playing around.
Gods, I want to ride you till you see stars.
Alas, her words were only a promise of things to come. Though that engine of hers just shot to the very top of Dork's priority list. For now though, Halston decided to warn us about the perilous routes to Moonrise Towers. Two options, the Mountain Pass or the Underdark, both filled with their own kinds of danger. Little did he know, we'd completely ignore his advice and tackle both routes anyway. There are achievements stashed on all sides. First up, back to the Underdark Beach, where you guys can now finally see the bloody aftermath of the intense fight that took place here. We hopped onto the Dwagar boat and sailed into the Dark Void, where we bumped into another group of Dwagar patrolling the lake. Their leader was sporting an absolutist necklace, so Dork played along like the obedient little cultist he definitely isn't. And together we continued our journey until we reached a new shore. Or should I say, a new shore. We stepped off the boat and we were immediately greeted by another not so welcome party. After dealing with that, we started poking around for clues on where to find the legendary forge. The one we had learned about from our suspiciously informative book, Flump Mating Rituals. And when the place is called Grim Forge, I guess we could expect to get the first and the last Underdark related achievements right here. While wandering around, we came across a herdmaster whacking some poor Rothe. It turned out that the rubble the Rothe were clearing held pieces of
adamantine.
Adamantine golem? Seems like we're headed in the right direction. And we were going there, though not before doing exactly what the herdmaster asked us to do.
Light a fire under the buggers. Eat this!
Well, there goes our loot. But at least the Rothe cleared the way for us so we could continue the search. Wait, stop.
A trap.
This'll be fun.
I said stop, Garlic and Gale, for fuck's sake. Yep, we triggered a minefield of traps. And with we, I mean them. Thankfully, we avoided becoming crispy fried chicken and made it down the ladder in one piece. On the middle platform, we found our first mold, a longsword mold, after which we played everyone's favorite game. What is the right lever to use, and why do you always choose the wrong one first? Eventually, I got it, and we then explored all of the area across from here and found 2 more molds. Then we went back to the middle platform and ran all the way to the end to play everyone's favorite game again. Welcome to Leave Her Now and Never Come Back, the game where you get to show how smart you really are. Our returning disappointment, Dork, is back after last round's glorious disaster. Can he redeem himself? Can he defy the odds? Can he, for once in his miserable existence, pick the right lever? He steadies himself, eyes locked. Oh my god. Why? Well, you know what the punishment is. Here comes Gollum.
Shame on you! Go f*** yourself!
Eventually, I figured it out and they all reached the ancient forge. We checked the left side of the room first, and there we found the splint mold, and then we turned to the right side to pick up another. A brutal fight broke out right there, and after what only can be described as a struggle fest, we claimed the skill male mold. Walking around the corner of this hanging bridge thing, we found a mithril vein. With a bludgeoning weapon, we mined the ore and then made our way to the forge, where another mithril vein presented itself. Cue the magma methods. Appearing out of nowhere to turn us into crispy fried chicken part 2. And Gale seemed to like that idea a little bit too much, as every chance he got he would just walk straight into the fire or magma. Gale, for the love of Mystra, we've been over this, man. You need to stop thinking you are fireproof. You literally just died proving you're not. Still, we managed to snag another piece of mithril ore eventually, which means that we are ready to explore more. I mean, what if there are more molds to get? There aren't, but past me did not know that. And then we saw the deep gnome corpse pile, making Dork's thirst for blood reach critical levels. And the Dwegar were about to get the goblin treatment. Because as we've learned from Nettie, murder is the best medicine. Very effective.
Quite exhausted. A good night's sleep would do me wonders.
Sleep is for the dead, Gale. Are you dead? Well, you were minutes ago, but still. Before taking a rest, we nearly got ourselves killed by piss blobs with pseudopod attacks. So after that, we headed straight to camp, where Karlach asked Dork to help cool her down. What if we just throw water on her?
Alright.
This is clever. Might even work. Come here.
Sparks flying, hearts healing. well, not enough, but I think we laid a solid foundation to keep this romance ablaze. That night, Dork dozed off, probably dreaming about his first smooch. Will she appear in his dreams? No, but Daddy Thanorg will. Daddy issues? 100%. He's so purple that he blends in with the background. Just like Dork. Oh, like father, like son.
Just like you, I'm just like you, you're just like me, you're just like me. It's something anyone can see.
Back in the forge, we continued exploring the ground floor, and there we ran into a wall prime for explosion. After all, we did have some unfinished business to take care of in the name of the Sovereign. Behind it sat True Soul Near, a true weasel. A fight ensued, and boy oh boy, it looked like they were going to take our heads instead. Gale, probably still salty about the whole no rest for you thing, decided to switch sides for a hot minute. Astarion was sent flying, but not far enough thankfully, and then Gale finally snapped out of it and actually helped for once. Oh, no, you're not thunder waving us off the edge, bitch. Damn it. Through a lot of healing, people going down, more healing, more people going down, and even more healing, we pulled through. And then like a true witcher completing a monster contract, we took Nir's head. La 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 la. Gale wasn't the only one ready to turn on the team that day, because later in the night, Dork's beauty sleep was rudely interrupted by two bickering ladies.
If anyone asks, I'll say you were transforming. Don't expect to be mourned.
I know I just watched that documentary, but like, this is giving Robert Durst energy, like, oh no, she attacked me, so I just chopped her into pieces in self-defense. Says me, literally holding Nir's severed head, delivering it to a bunch of spool sniffers. But let's not dwell on that. Let's go back to the forge and do what you've all been waiting for. I had Astarion and Gale stay to the side of the platform, as last time that we jumped onto the platform and ran around here, they got stuck on the jump back up. And I was just going to pop in a splint mold, chuck in a piece of ore, hit that lever and get out. But then the floor turned out to be an elevator, and when we then spun the valve to fire up the forge and the floor turned to lava, it happened. Let me guess, that's Grim? And my boys are still stuck on top of that ledge. Why am I such an idiot? Little did I know that keeping Gale and Astarion out of harm's way was actually a big brain strategy, because they could do their ranged attacks while not losing any hit points. And fun fact, I was so deep into this fight, like mentally, that I completely forgot about the Forge Hammer's existence. Like, I didn't even register that it was potentially there to use. And so, while Dork was barely clinging to life, Karlach stepped in and sent Grim to his final resting place, granting us a Grim fate without having to do a single reload, and I'm pretty proud of that. Shortly after, we pulled the forge lever and the hammer came down with a satisfying clang, giving us an amazing piece of armor and forged in blood and fire. And then I completely forgot about the second piece of mithril ore and sent everyone back to Wolkeen's Rest. With the forge behind us and the mountain pass before us, we found ourselves in yet another breathtaking location. We barely set foot in the new area before meddling in some casual necromantic affairs, and after that we ran into no other than
Elminster?
We sent him off to camp and then continued with our exploration. Dork flexed his muscles to unlock a cable cart wheel and we hopped aboard to go down. We forgot Karlach. Rewind! Together at last, we made our way down to the Rosy Morn Monastery, but we were not the only ones. Some Gits stormed in with a group of cultists, and they did not seem very hospitable. Thanorg then decided to announce to us that he wasn't too thrilled about us poking around here. So ignoring all common sense, as usual, we did just that. In our search for a way in, we stumbled upon some interesting finds, like a guardian of fate protecting the dead and a ceremonial battle axe. An ancient giant eagle sitting on top of a ceremonial warhammer, and a bunch of drunk kobolds who were not so willing to share their wine. Which did remind me that we do still need to kill some enemies while drunk. We chucked some spirits down, and even though there were quite a few of them, it was still not enough for the achievement. We did find a ceremonial mace on one of the kobolds though. Next, we discovered a beautiful stained glass window showcasing the Dawn Masters and their ceremonial weapons. Conveniently, we already had all of them. So one by one we placed the ceremonial warhammer, the mace and the battle axe onto their corresponding altars. And boom! A secret compartment revealed itself containing a note and a crest. Reading the note triggered the journal update "Find the Blood of Lathander," confirming to us that we were on the right path for taking blood. Before heading any deeper into the monastery basement, we returned to camp where Elminster was waiting for Gale. He delivered some terrible news. Mistra sends her regards, now die. Elminster then contained the traces of magic with a special spell, and so we received Repairing the Weave, and Gale actually became the Oppenheimer of Waterdeep now.
The Absolute will be gone, and I along with it.
With that resolved, we settled in for a long rest. But as you already know, we won't be sleeping for long. Our cute little owlbear friend finally found its way to camp.
What a delectable little pet.
And off it ran. Thanks, Astarion. With Lae'zel and the squad, we finally made our way into the crash to uncover one of the most hyped up solutions for our worm infestation, the Satisk. A terrifying device that tested not only Lae'zel's willpower, but also my heart rate, as we failed roll after roll after roll. And just when I thought we'd lose her forever, Daddy Tanark swooped in to save the day. Oh my god, that was awful. Unfortunately, Gus still wasn't a fan of what had just happened to her device and decided to lock us in and start a fight she could never win. You know where this is going, right? Murder spree! Murder spree! Murder spree! Murder spree! Murder spree! While we were systematically erasing Lae'zel's skin from this plane, we ran into a locked room. Wait a minute. Wasn't that the tiefling girl from before? With Voss? Oh, please tell me she does not count towards Leave No One Behind. Okay, phew. Okay, she can't be saved. Oh man, I swear, if I had to go back that far to fix it, I would have cried. After that, we went to see Kithrak the Resin in the captain's quarters, where our incredible dice rolling skills continued, forcing us into another reload. Not because we lost the fight, no. Astarion dropped the scissor dagger. You know, the one we crafted all the way back in the Blighted Village. And guess what? I like that dagger a lot, because I made it, but it bugged out, making it impossible to pick it up, which turns out is a known bug with this dagger. Me. At this point, I was so done testing our dice rolling skills, so we preemptively murdered the Resin and her squad. Lae'zel looted the shard from the Kithrak's corpse, unlocking the door to the Inquisitor chamber, where Vlaakith's forces waited for us. The Inquisitor himself demanded us to hand over the prism. Obviously, we refused, because at this point we'd already slaughtered half the Githyanki in the crash, and we were not about to stop now. We wiped out the Inquisitor and the remaining Githyanki forces, earning us a meeting with Vlaakith herself. Lae'zel was already so sad about what had happened previously with the Zaytisk and her kin, so when Vlaakith tasked us with destroying the person corrupting the prism, we couldn't say no. Which meant we got to go inside of it. And there he was. Dad?
I told you to stay away from the Githyanki.
You're corrupting the prism?
You just couldn't help yourself. Could you?
Thanark was not happy to see us, and for a second I thought he was going to kill us, but then he let Dork make that decision. And Dork could never kill his own father. I mean, he's not a monster. Well, no, he is, but not the type to slay his own blood.
You sure about that?
Lae'zel wasn't exactly thrilled about defying Mother Gith, but hey, we can't all have great family bonds. Yours.
I had no idea you were so keen to die.
Expecting to get scorched by the goddess upon her return, she was gone. So we rummaged through everything to get the loot until I saw 2 rotatable statues. After playing around with their positions, we unlocked a secret path to yet another location within a location. God, I love this game. We disabled the energy source in the first room, and then we disabled the traps and the energy sources in the next rooms. And then we inserted the crest into its rightful place. And it's a weapon?
We're stealing someone's blood?
It's not real blood. You know, it makes sense, but like, it's kind of disappointing. But with the legendary weapon in hand, we earned the Taking Blood achievement. And with the crash now behind us, we returned to camp for a long rest. When our favorite Albert Cub showed up again. But this time, he was wounded. Dork, for once this day, actually passed the roll and we patched him up. Without hesitation, our new feathery friend joined the camp. Just in time for the end of Act 1. Or not. Because as we walked along the monastery trail, heading to the entrance of the shadow-cursed lands, the game forced us into another long rest. And there, Voss appeared. We are so dead. Voss, however, was not here to slay us on behalf of his queen. Actually, he had no love for Vlaakith at all, and instead swore loyalty to the man inside the prism. After some deliberation, Lae'zel hesitantly sided with him, and this earned us the Lich Queen's Wrath achievement. We finally laid down for a few hours of rest. One last breath of fresh air before we step into the shadow-cursed lands. The world ahead is darker, colder, and far more dangerous, and there, a new chapter in our achievement hunt begins. Act 2.